Hello, 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 and welcome to the village. Welcome, everyone. Happy Thursday. Happy Thursday. Come on into the village. Grab a pen and a pad because today's topic is a good one, and we have some fabulous guests with us today. Listen, have you heard of Principal Hurt? He's here. Have you heard of Principal Howard? She's here. Have you heard of Mr. Shawn Mason? Yep, he's here too. And what about Miss Arnice Williams? I'm about to just say Arnice. Miss Williams. She's here. Listen, guys, welcome to the village. Listen, we're talking about school culture. And I want to know, is your school's culture toxic because of your leadership? Yep, I asked the question. Yes, I did. Is your school's culture toxic because of your leadership? This is a time for us to reflect and think about our leadership and whether or not we are making sure that our school culture is collaborative and the way that we want our schools to be, to make sure that we have the right learning environment for our students. So I have some great school leaders and educators with us today, and we're going to talk about school culture. So again, guys, welcome to the village. Welcome, welcome, welcome to our guests. Welcome to the village. Listen, I want each of our guests to kind of introduce themselves and tell us a little bit about school culture and about our topic today, about school culture being toxic because of our leadership, okay? So first up, I have to introduce my sister, Arnice Williams, who is a lead teacher in the DMV area. So welcome to the village. Well, welcome back. She was already part of the village. Welcome, Arnice. Introduce yourself and tell them a little bit about the topic.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Arnice Williams, and I am the math instructional lead teacher at a school here in the DMV area. I'm kind of like a math coach, professional development person. It's combining all of my passions together. I've been teaching for 13 years, and so taking this next step into leadership is awesome. So when Dr. Ross, my sister, asked me to come on and talk about a toxic school culture, the biggest word that stuck out in my mind was toxic, right? But I also kind of related that to a car. And you think about your car, you keep it well oiled, you get the oil change, you fill the gas tank up, and it runs great. But you're also taking the time to cultivate that car, making sure that it's going to run well. Well, think about the opposite. When that happens, your car breaks down, you'll be on the side of the road. And sometimes in those toxic schools, we find that our teachers are on the side, burned out. Our students are not giving us their all. So when I'm thinking of toxic, y'all, I'm thinking on the side of the road, burnt out.
Yes, that's a good analogy. Good analogy. So keep that, because we're going to talk about that. I like that analogy. All right, next up, I'm going to move over to my man, Principal Hurt. All right, Principal Hurt, introduce yourself. Welcome to the village, Principal Hurt.
Thank you for having me. I'm just excited to be here once again. My name is Shawn Hurt, and I'm from the Detroit, Michigan area. I've been in education for 22 years, been a principal for 14 years, and for the last 6 years, I've been doing a lot of consulting as it relates to helping schools raise student achievement. My passion is to really work with inner city schools and to see those Black and brown kids is really soar. And one thing that I'm understanding regarding school culture is that as a principal, as a leader, the principal is the one that can make or break a school culture, depending on how he or she is. And then I've been around, like I said, been a principal for 14 years. And I think the biggest thing is to have that principal to understand that, listen, if I'm positive, if I have a passion for what I'm doing, if I'm bringing energy every day, then consequently it's going to translate to my teachers, my parents, and my students. So that's why I think that's where we're at with school culture.
Thank you, Principal Hurt, and again, welcome. And now, Mr. Mason, another Shawn is in the house. Mr. Mason, welcome to the village.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. This is a great experience. So my name is Shawn Mason. I am a 24-year educator here in the New York City area. I've always worked in our communities which they call underprivileged or underserved. I've never thought that. I think, in those the diamonds are in the rough, and you have some of the most greatest achievements. So I've been a teacher for 24 years. Outside of that, I am a mentor for the past 14 years, in which I've developed a leadership and development program platform to help brown boys to just develop the tools and skills necessary to be successful in life, to understand that they need to break generational curses, that they need to form strong networks, and then they need to get out of their way so that they can be successful. So that is, what I believe in. And when I think of toxic school culture, I think about those Debbie Downers, whether it's be the principal, whether it be the people. Let me tell you something. In 24 years, I have never eaten in the teacher's lounge because I went in there and the conversation was toxic. And so it is very hard to be in an environment in which you are supposed to be the people giving breath and breathing hope into these kids, and you don't even believe in the people that you're working with. So that's when I think about toxic. I think about those Debbie Downers and those people that are those naysayers.
Okay, it's all right, Principal Howard. He wasn't talking about you.
Am I so
Right.
Absolutely
So
not.
last but certainly not least, Principal Howard, welcome to the village. I'm so honored that you're here. Welcome.
I am so very honored. Thank you so much. Yeah, we have to change that. It's got to be Diane Downer, somebody else other than Debbie. Yeah, every time I hear that, I'm like, oh my goodness. But thank you so much, Dr. Ross, for having me. My brother, Shawn, and Shawn, thank you. It's so good to see both of you and be on the stage with also your sister, Dr. Ross. Listen, so I'm Deborah Howard. I'm in Dayton, Ohio. That's where I live, but I work in Springfield City School District. I've been in education for 20 plus years, and I've held various positions from transition coordinator, working with young people who had just been released from incarceration, going back into the school system and, getting them credit recovery and things like that. Been the family and community engagement director and just held various titles. But I'm most honored to be the head of a kindergarten through sixth grade school right now. And oh man, I'm just having the time of my entire life. So that's a little bit about me. But when I think about school culture and a toxic culture, this year our theme has been We Are Crew. And so everybody is part of this crew: family, community, teachers, staff, and the students. We're all a part of this crew. Everybody has to have their oar in the water, and we all have to be going in the same direction. So if somebody pulls their oar out of the water, or somebody chooses not to row or is lacking, then that hurts the whole entire team. And so when we've really been talking about and preaching about just building that culture where we are all part of this crew, and if we're all not going in the same direction, then we've got some problems. The other thing that when I think about toxic environments, I think about not having a safe space to be able to express concerns, to be able to be afraid and be vulnerable, and that be okay. And there's no repercussions behind that. And so we have to create those spaces where teachers can feel like they can come to administrators, that they can come to each other, and they can have those conversations. But one thing that I require is that if you come to the table with a problem, you also have to come with a solution. So we're not going to be a dumping ground. I'll hear you. I'll hear you. And I'll give you your space to lay it all out. Take it to the altar, as I say. But we also have to have a solution and work through. And it's okay to have those healthy battles where we're challenging each other, but we're challenging each other with love, and we're challenging each other to do better. So that's what I think about.
Thank you. Yes. Well, again, guys, those of you who are just joining us, again, welcome to the village. We're talking about school culture. We have a panel of teachers and administrators here to talk about school culture. And we want to know, is your school's culture toxic because of your leadership? Yeah, this is the time to be reflective, to see what it is about our leadership that's causing this toxic culture. And we know how we want our schools to be. You want your schools to be collaborative and where teachers trust one another and trust administration, and where all stakeholders feel welcome and feel warm, inviting environment for teaching and learning. But guys, there are some schools where folks are just fighting and fussing, and the parents don't want their children to go there. The children don't want to be there. So, Mr. Mason, you are a mentor. You've been an educator for 20 plus years, and you work with a lot of our youth. So I want to hear from you, like, what is the impact of a toxic culture on our youth? Let's start there.
Well, the impact is very detrimental, is because what you find is that you have kids who have no vision, and anyone without a vision is going to perish. So therefore, they feel as though they don't buy in. They feel as though, you know, teachers don't care about them. So why should they do anything? I'm just here. So those are the kids who just show up. They're not putting anything into themselves. And so, which is really kind of crucial, because I try to be a mirror reflection and try to get them to understand that just because your circumstance might be temporary, that is not your outcome. So anyone that you see, whether it's Jay-Z, whether it's, and it's very crucial that people understand that you have to get something to connect kids to. So talk a lot about Cardi B. I think Cardi B is one of the greatest success stories. I had an educator and parents like, I said, yeah, but you have to put her in context and understand what I'm saying. This is a girl who, you know, has really turned her life around 360 degrees. Now, if you look at, you know, truly where she's come from and those things that she's had to overcome, you make it applicable because that's somebody that they can see that has made it. So
it's relatable, right?
That whatever it is, and you know, she's come from the projects. She know what it is to, you know, starve or have to, you know, go to a food shelter or a food pantry or not, you know, have clean clothes. Then they see themselves, and then once you see yourself in someone, then you get to you say, wow, yeah, I can achieve that. And then just, you know, for myself, just being the greatest representation of, listen, I work hard. This is where I've come from. And, you know, listen, you can too achieve this, whatever it is, just truly be your authentic self. So they need that. So in a toxic environment, if kids don't have that buy-in or they don't see or feel as though people care about them innately, then they're not going to buy in. They're not going to buy in. Exactly. And that's when you become the bank, the prom person, whatever it is. And we don't do these things. And we all know as educators, you don't do these things to ask for money back, whatever. But it's just to see that kid, that spark, and it just, and then they feel as though someone cared, and they just care a little more about themselves.
Also, and in a toxic environment, that's not going to happen.
No, now, it's not.
We assume that everyone who decides to be a teacher or educator, that they love children, that they're here to care for children. But unfortunately, in a toxic environment, you have those individuals who really, they show up every day just to collect a check, or they just don't care, or maybe they're burned out and they're frustrated because they're in a toxic environment where they don't feel supported or trusted by administration. So it's a lose-lose. So again, thank you, Mr. Mason. You want to add to that, Mr. Mason?
I was going to say also too, and I think too that, you know, especially as brown educators, we also too have to understand that when we get into this field, we have to have a plan ourselves. You can't keep doing the same thing for years and years and there's no growth and you're not happy yourself. I have a lot of former colleagues that's like, oh my gosh, I see you on Facebook or this, that, and other. You always, you know, here again, you have this glow and this smiles because I've done everything in elementary ed. So I was like, okay, I've conquered this and I've known. So let me move on and do some other things. And then you yourself have this kind of joy. And then on top of that, you get a wealth of experiences so that you don't become that toxic person in those environments. So, you know, you got to pour into the cup.
Exactly.
Can I jump in real quick?
Go right ahead.
So along the lines, you know, he's talking about music, and in my head, I'm thinking, how low can you go? You know, ludicrous, right? And thinking about our students, when they're in those toxic environments, they're going lower and lower. And it's like they can't escape, you know, it's that cycle. You know, you're in a toxic environment, and Mr. Mason, you were talking about how teachers have to grow because sometimes they're stunting our kids' growth. So think about it. We lose a teacher, then we replace that teacher, but they're in that toxic environment, right? They come back and teach that same kid again, and now they're going even lower and lower. And it's a cycle. We have to break it. So this conversation, Dr. Roz, I'm loving it.
All right. All right, Principal Howard, jump in there. Let's talk about the impact on our students, on our babies. This is why we do what we do.
You know, I mean, well, the impact is both mental, spiritual, and academic deficiencies. And so if a child does not feel good about themselves and does not believe that they have any potential to accomplish anything, they're not going to put forth any effort or very little effort when it comes to their academics. And so you can have the best teacher in the world, and if that scholar does not believe in himself, or does not have any representation around them, or nobody that can connect to their experiences and who they are as a person, it's going to be an extreme challenge. And if it's a toxic environment, one thing that I've found is that when we talk about inner city schools, the expectation is already low, and what they can accomplish. And we oftentimes, turn our fingers and point to the parents and their home life and what's going on. And those things are beyond our control. We can't, there's nothing that we can do about what happens when they walk out of our door. What we can control is, and what we can create is a safe place for them to flourish while they are in our care. And that is what we need to start building, is those places where seeds can be planted. I'm the principal. I plant the seed in the staff. The staff then plants the seed in the kids, and somebody has to come along and water and nurture that. And if we have environments where one of the greatest things that I've heard, one of my professors said, if you get to a lake or a river or some body of water, and this is Dr. Thomas Meredata, if you get to a body of water and all of the fish in the water are belly up, you don't ask what's wrong with the fish. You ask what's wrong with the water, right? And so if you place those fish in fresh, healthy, good water, they're going to continue to thrive. If you put them in water that is toxic and poisonous, then they're going to go belly up. And that's the same thing that happens with our kids. They go belly up because they're in an environment that is poisonous, that's toxic. And so when I think about that type of analogy, it just makes me want to pour into the teachers. I continue to ask them, what is your why? When they have those days where little John, just kind of like poking the bear that day, and they've had it. Let's go back to your why. Why did you start doing this? Why did you continue to do that? And so I think that if we can keep taking folks back to that, and understand that we create the atmosphere and the spirit in the building, then we will see our kids continue to grow.
Awesome. Principal Hurt, I gotta bring you in. So you are the turnaround specialist. You are the king of turnaround. And I don't want people to just think that, when you are in a low performing school or a Title I in this area, or any type of school where they're low performing, that it has to be a toxic environment. No, because I've been in a Title I school where the culture was wonderful. It was collaborative. We didn't always agree, but we had courageous conversations. We rolled up our sleeves and we did whatever we had to do for our students.
Yeah.
So, Principal Hurt, talk to us a little bit from your perspective.
Well, I think that, the principal or the leader of the school really creates the culture. You can be a Title I school in a city, but you can still have high student achievement, parents loving the school, just things going good. But I think what I'm seeing is that what's going on is that we're not changing how we are delivering or how we are structuring our school. We're still doing the same thing that we were doing 60 or 70 years ago that didn't work. So if you look at schools, and I can talk about Principal Howard School. I've been in her school many times. She has changed the whole outlook on how when the kids are coming into the school. It's totally different than maybe the environment that they're coming from. And consequently, when you're changing the environment, the hallways, the classrooms, going on those morning announcements and getting those kids pumped up and then getting the parents involved, consequently, it's going to change from a negative environment to a positive environment. And then from there, now you're going to see kids having better student achievement. You're going to see teachers loving to come to work. You're going to see parents just really saying, okay, I see the vision. And consequently, now we're preparing kids for college and beyond. That's the one thing. Now, I believe that when you're a principal, you have to have that vision 5-10 years down the road. And it's not about waiting for 5 or 10 years down the road, but you're doing it right now. You're doing it in real time. So, that's the one thing that I can say is that when you change the whole school, change change your more announcements, change how the classroom are set up, change how your hallways look, change how you have your meetings and things of that nature. It's going to shift on how those kids view and see schools.
Yeah. If I can just add on to that. So we have Mr. Hurt coming in to talk about our data because alignment is so critical with instruction, and then taking that data and not be what we call drip, data rich and information poor, but taking that data and really having that data drive our instruction. Because I feel like when teachers are confident about what they're doing, and they know the direction in which the building is going, they know what their expectations are. Obviously, when you're more confident, if I'm a confident teacher, I'm going to have some confident learners in my room. If I'm not confident about my curriculum, if I'm not confident about my data, if I don't know which way I'm going, that raises a level of anxiety, which creates that toxic environment. And so with Mr. Hurt coming into our building and taking us through this intensive training about how to do those data digs and what to look for and how it's aligned with our state standards and how it's aligned with our state tests, then I, as the principal and my instructional coaches, we can go back and feed the staff to make them more confident about what they're doing. And now they're looking at they're straight to the data. It's no guessing. It's no, I think, I wonder, well, maybe, I don't know, perhaps. The data tells us the story, right? And they now know how to read the story. And because they know how to read the story, now they can plan for their academic instruction. Moving to those announcements, we set the tone for the day based on our announcements. Mm-hmm. So our announcements are lit. Like, we don't get on there and we're just reading the script. So, I think on the interview I did before, because we're in COVID and we're still practicing, masking and everything like that. We take the instrumental version of Ice Ice Baby and we call it Mask Safety. So we hear that dun 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 dun. And
yeah.
Then, we have a reading challenge, so that we're really trying to push that independent reading time and push kids their ability to read for longer periods of time. And so we're calling it that level up. So we play. I don't know who the artist is.
Sierra,
level up.
They hear that in the morning. So those things, it gets them in the mindset of, I'm a learner now. I'm a learner, but we're using material, we're using that music, as Mr. Mason referred to get them hyped up. But then we calm it down by having a mindful music moment to get them back into their space and ready to learn for the day. And that is part of the culture. So the kids now, if they see me with my mask down, it's mask safety, Ms. Howard, mask safety. But creating those non-traditional opportunities to build that culture, and that positive culture is very important.
No,
go ahead.
No,
go ahead.
I'm gonna let Ms. Mason talk, and then I'll go after Ms. Mason.
No, I was gonna say, and just being a former educator, one thing that I love that Principal Howard keeps stressing is that it's very crucial to make a safe space for educators to feel as though they can come to you or come to their administration or their leadership coaches or whomever it is and be able to be like, all right, listen, I totally failed, or today I just really didn't feel comfortable in that. But here and again, another key thing, let's not dwell in this. What are we going to do? How are we going to take this data to then help you to unpack these standards so that, like you said, once you have the data, then it gets you to unpacking the standards, and that helps you to further read the story. And then, you become that confident teacher. And it's just that, just making things fun. I've always been that, my principals have always said, like, listen, I'm going to give this kid to you. And we always know who that kid is, either that kid who's been in every teacher's classroom or who's been behind, or, that has just not been slated to succeed. And they come into my room and it's a 360 just turnaround. I've always used music. The greatest thing about working in New York City is that I always have a year-round permission slip. And I've always asked my parents to let me take your kids a 12-block radius within the school, because education doesn't happen in the classroom, and we live in the greatest city. So we're going to get outside and listen. They're not. Yeah. So we're going to dig in the garden. They're going, so things like that. But I've had parents that's like, listen, it's snowing and my kid don't have to go to school. And I'm trying to figure out, what are you doing in here today? You really want to come to school? Here again, I'm changing that culture. Yeah. I'm changing that because, listen, I'm going to create that safe space. My classrooms used to be so elaborate. I used to build trees and just make it like, listen, we're going to come in here. We're going to have a good time because, like Principal Howard said, I don't know where you're going after this, but I'm going to make this such a space that you want to come here every day. Yeah. You want to be here. And then that builds that confidence in that student.
Awesome. Principal Hurt?
No, it's funny that we say, because we're on this culture thing, and I'm just excited. About 6 years ago, I did this. I said, you know what? Instead of having pictures of, like LeBron James or whatever it may be up in my school, I said, no, what? I'm gonna take a picture of all of my kids smiling, and I'm gonna hang it from my ceiling. Okay. So why did I do that? Because I knew that if my kids saw themselves smiling for 180 days, they will become that, because they're coming from environments where you mean monkey, you mad, you hearing, you hear your, different names being called. So now when you come into the school, if you actually see yourself smiling for 180 days, then now you're going to become that. And then I wish that every school in the world would have something like that. Just have pictures of your kids smiling, because that's what they're going to become. The other thing is that when you talk about the culture, and then I had to have a conversation with my staff. When I first became a principal, I said, know what? We have 500 Black kids in our school. Okay, let's just be honest. I said, let's learn how Black kids learn. Let's read upon them. Let's go into the neighborhood. Let's actually have our staff meetings and our grade level meetings, and let's learn how Black kids from the inner city learn. So consequently, when you start to educate yourself on the students, now you transform how you're teaching. You're transformed, like Brother Mason said and Sister Howard said, the music that's being played, the things that we like, and I mean the kids like, and consequently it's going to transfer into the classroom until you have a positive culture, because you're not teaching math, but you're teaching Matthew. I'm going to say that again. You're not teaching math, you're teaching Matthew. It's totally different. When you're teaching Matthew, you understand what Matthew likes, you understand the church that he goes to, you understand, his neighborhood, his environment, music he listens to. But when you're teaching math, you're just teaching content. And once again, math cannot teach Matthew. Matthew will be able to understand the math.
Exactly. So, Principal Hurt, I'm going to stay right here with you. I'm sorry to keep picking on you. But you're a turnaround specialist. I'm sorry.
Sorry.
Right. So I want to talk about Principal Howard and Mr. Mason talked about teachers and feeding the teachers and supporting the staff. And one of the things that we know, in a toxic environment, teachers are not getting along. There's no trust. They don't feel like they can go to a principal and say, you know what, I blew it, I failed. And so, or maybe they don't understand their why, Principal Howard, or they're just so burned out. So what can we do, Principal Hurt, to get our teachers to buy in and to really feel safe in this collaborative environment that we're trying to build?
Well, you know what? There's a couple of things I feel that principals could do. First, I think we need to take the principal hat off and become instructional leaders. Consequently, we need to be in those classrooms 80% of the time, not evaluating, but just watching, supporting the teacher, understanding what they're going through. So that means it was funny because today I had walked by my kindergarten class, and then I noticed that one of the kids needed a marker because his marker was out. So now I had to go in my office, get about 5 markers because they were a check for understanding. So when you are one of those teachers and you understand what they need, now it's more of a collaboration. Yeah. The other thing that I'm big on is that we need to support teachers to have them reach their goals. So if you're not a principal and you're not developing principals within your building or assistant principal or coaches, what are you doing? And that's why I tell principals, okay, you need to be able to say, okay, 3 or 4 more years, who's going to replace you from this position? Yeah. And start to put them into leadership positions. Have them run your staff meetings or grade level meetings, have them speak in front of parents, have them become this, because, you have the talent right there. So those 2 things, I truly believe, is many other things that can help teachers, relate better to that administrator that's inside of the building.
Yeah. So, Principal Howard, How can we support teachers and help develop this collaborative culture?
Well, I think one of the things that I just am big on, because I am an open book, and it's just about, I let them see me be vulnerable. When I mess up, hey, listen, I blew it today. I blew it today. I remember one time I went in on this kid. I mean, I went.
Principal Howard.
I did. I had it. I went in on him. And because we had that kind of relationship, me and this young man, it was, I'm not saying it was okay, but he knew where I was coming from, a place of love, right?
Exactly.
In trying to model what my expectation is for the teachers, I blew it, and I blew it in front of teachers. So I had to swing back around that next day, and I pulled them in and I said, hey, listen, that was not okay. And I blew it. And I think that raised the level of respect. Like, hey, listen, we all have those days. I get it. I get it. We're in COVID. We're having to learn how to teach a new way. There's people are worried about their families. They're worried about they haven't seen their parent. I mean, all what that was going on. So anxiety levels are high, and I blew it that day. I did. But I had to go back and circle back around and own that. And so when you allow yourself to be vulnerable, your own self as the leader of the building, then that gives them permission to be vulnerable as well. And to come to you and say, you know what, remember when you went off on that kid or you lost it? Well, guess what I did today? And it's like, okay, well, how are we going to fix it? Because we can't just leave it in that space.
Exactly.
To fix it, right? And so that's one of the things that I try to create. And then just like Mr. Hurt said, you got to be in the classroom. You've got to, and not with your iPad or your laptop typing, you have to be in there just to get down with the teacher and be there for the kids. The last week, my 6th grade team had a rough morning. There was a whole lot going on, and I took the kids out for recess. Don't even worry about it. Just take that extra 15, 20 minutes. I took them outside for recess, played kickball with them, and then sent them back into the classroom. And that little 15, 20 minutes, they just were, thank you so much, because they needed that. They just needed that break. So we have to find small ways and big ways to inject ourselves into the classroom and just give them that little support that they need. If I see a teacher having a rough day, go take a break, go take 5, go take 10. I'll take the class now. I don't know what it's going to look like when you come back, but I promise you nobody will be bleeding, right? But giving them, just having those opportunities. And I try to have a personal connection with each of them. So if I know your color, if I know your favorite flower, if I know something personal about you, that when we're talking, I can ask you about your daughter, I can ask you about your parents, so that they can feel comfortable in coming and talking to me when there really is a big issue.
Awesome. So I want to ask you, Ms. Williams, you're a teacher leader in your building. So we just can't keep blaming the principal. Sorry, we want to, but like what Mr. Mason said, he didn't even want to go in the teacher's lounge because it was just so toxic. The conversation wasn't positive. So we know as teachers, we can, add to the toxic level of the culture. So as a teacher leader, like, how do you feel your role is as it plays, building that collaborative culture?
Ooh, why you hit me with that question?
Come on.
But honestly, my role, I see it as, honestly, we're kind of all on the even playing field. The leadership, yes, can definitely set the tone, but we all have our own responsibility, our own onus in setting that environment. If I don't like it, I'm going to change it, right? I'm a go-getter, and I'm very transparent. I think that has been one of my sticking points, and I think everybody has kind of touched on that transparency, allowing people to see you as human, as a teacher leader, not a principal, not there, but when I'm working with different teachers in a professional development, letting them see, like you said, how that you might make a mistake. Showing them that, yes, okay, I'm gonna give you a perfect example. We had a really big benchmark, right? All the teachers were fussing. We're not ready yet, all of this stuff. Okay, so let me come in. We are not ready. All right, let's own it. Great, move on. What are we ready for? What can our students do? Coming back and that growth mindset, all of those things. Yeah. So as a teacher leader, I take the leadership, or I take the stance that we all have our own piece that we have to play. We can't keep, like you said, blaming the principal. Now, okay, don't come to me with problems. Come to me with your solutions, and we are all those solutions.
Awesome. Mr. Mason, what role do the teachers play in creating this culture that we want to see?
Educators have to be open to the possibility of what can be. And that's just it. You have to understand that, like my man Principal Hurt said, that what worked yesterday is going to work tomorrow. And you have to constantly be innovative. You have to be creative. You have to think on your feet. You have to understand that you have to build a village, because here and again, it's very realistic. So, even with getting the parents to understand, that, and down to the security guard, that everything starts, like when the parent walks in the door, they should feel like this is a great place. And that starts with school safety. That culture starts there. It starts with it starts with everyone, the cafeteria worker that doesn't want to give Tommy an extra hamburger because why? If he's hungry, he's hungry. So, and guess what? And if he wants to eat an extra bowl of cereal before he starts, then this is what we're going to do. Yeah. So we have to understand that the traditional school is no more. We have to create that safe space, and that is coming in. And guess what? In the morning time, it might not be at 8:20 that we jump right into academics. It might be some sort of rally in which we get all the kids together and we build that community spirit in which they understand that, hey, this is a place where I can come to where I feel safe. And then, you buy into that. And if teachers don't understand that, then somewhere along the lines, then it all kind of evens itself out, because either you're on the train, and it's going to keep rolling, or you're not on the train. And there's somebody that's ready to get on board.
Exactly. Well, Principal Hurt, we talk about, the type of culture we want, but I want to hear from you as well. Basically, to wrap up, what are some advice you would give, or some lessons learned that you would give as far as developing our collaborative school culture?
Well, I think the first thing that I would say is that as a principal, you should first develop a good leadership team. Because you can't do it by yourself. You want to make sure your leadership team is solid and they understand your vision. And then the other part is that having those courageous conversations, really, and then I say really deal with the elephant in the room. The worst thing that you can do is you see the elephant and don't even talk about the elephant, talk about things. Now you lose the trust with your teachers. If you know that the culture is toxic, hey, listen, we got a toxic culture, we got to change it. Now, teachers, what can we do to change it? Let's put some ideas on the table, and then as the leader, you got to be able to deliver on those ideas that the teacher is saying. You might not be able to change all 20, but if you do 2 or 3, believe me, the teachers will start to say, oh, he or she means business. And then once again, be very open and transparent. Yes, you have to be the instructional leader. You got to be like one of them. Like I say, go into the classroom, not to observe, but teach a class. Like Principal Howard say, take a class out to recess. Do something. Let them know that you feel what they feel. Let them know that you feel their pain and stuff like that. And then when you see that, I'm telling you, you will see your school shift, and you'll see a positive culture within your school. And also, not only the school now, we're going to say within the district. So we don't want to leave out the district now. We don't want to leave out administration. We want to say the district and the school.
Awesome. Any final advice, Principal Howard, that you can give us?
I was sitting here taking notes, and I got about 15 bullets. I won't give you all of them. What I would say from sitting in the principal's seat is that is to keep pushing, keep moving. This is not an easy place to be, because you are trying to, you're in the classroom, but you also, it's like the elephant and not the elephant, but the giraffe and the turtle. At the giraffe, you're seeing the big picture. You're seeing the whole school. You're seeing everything. You understand. You see what's coming down the road. You know what's happening, and you have to make those decisions based on that bigger picture. And then you have to flip, and you have to be the turtle and see what's right in front of you right now. and deal with the everyday mundane day in, day out challenges. And so you really have to be able to shift and pivot at a drop of a dime. And sometimes that can be challenging, but you have to push through. And one of the things that you have to have is a strong team around you. Understanding that you will not always be the smartest person in the room. People come to the table with tons and tons of talent, creativity, ingenuity, and you have to respect that. You can't be threatened or intimidated because somebody shows up and they got it going on. You can't always be the shining star. So that's something that you really, you have to be careful about. Those folks that are in the building, the teachers, the educational staff that are in the building, the folks that are that stage 4 cancer, that's creating that illness in the building. You find those gatekeepers, those positive folks that can help deliver your message that you need to get into the building. They'll be your spokesperson for you. And like Mr. Mason said, you're either going to get on the bus and let's roll, or you're going to pull that little thing to get off at the next stop, one way or the other, because darkness can't stay where light is. So if you're constantly bringing the light into the building and you're creating light, darkness can't stay there. And so eventually you'll be able to move. But I will say this final thing, that sometimes that darkness is put there in order for us to keep pushing and keep us on our toes. So sometimes that little thorn in your side, like, why don't they just sign? Listen, it's time for transfer time. Why don't they just sign that paper and say, let me go? Sometimes that one person is there just so that you can stay on top of your game. Because I've asked that question, like, listen, I'm giving all the hints that I can. They are there, and that's that kind of that friction that keeps you on your toes and that keeps you pushing forward and make sure that you are driving that team. So that's the advice that I have.
Thank you, Principal Howard. And Mr. Mason and then Ms. Williams. Mr. Mason, final words and tips?
I would just say that, as educators, just really look to educate the whole child and understand, make some sort of connection. For 24 years, I think that's just, if I have to look back, that's what I would say my gift is that I've always looked to connect with each one of my kids so that they can feel special and understand that they have the power to be whatever they want to be in this world, believe in your dopeness, be as fly as you want to be. But as my mother used to always tell me, make sure that whenever you go outside, you represent yourself the best way. Make sure that you allow people to understand that you can conjugate verbs and that you know how to show up and that you're going to show out, and just be very confident in who you are. Be confident in who you are, and that as educators, we can't be afraid to build the next generation of kids, because that's really what we're charged to do. And to be innovative, creative with it and make it fun. And to look for, and for school leaders to follow the same paths, such as Principal Hurt and Sister Deborah here. You have to make your work environment fun. It should be off the hook lit for everyone. Teachers, and so like you said, so that little bit of darkness, even though it's going to stay there, it's going to be trouble, because listen, they ain't going to want to go nowhere. But it's going to have some problems, but it's so much light that, listen, it is what it is. So if we create those environments, then we can't do anything but build strong kids.
Awesome. Ms. Williams,
what was the quote? Broken kids are, it's better to fix broken kids and try to mend adults that are broken. So let's get in and really do the work now so that we can have those great people.
Awesome. Ms. Williams?
So I'm gonna steal something my sister always says. She always says, leadership is not a position, it's a mindset. And so it goes back to, as a teacher, we always think we're just a teacher, we're leaders. Everybody has their own pocket, their own expertise. So using that to really cultivate a great school culture.
Awesome. It takes a village. So I think that's one of the things that you all said, it takes the administrators, the teachers, we all need to come together, be innovative, trust one another, really roll up our sleeves to make the type of culture we want happen. And again, you have to be transparent. You have to be vulnerable. You have to take risks. We can't keep doing the same old, same old. So thank you, guests, for coming. Principal Hurt, where can people follow you, find you? What do you have going on?
I got a lot going on. First, you can follow me on my Facebook. I'm always doing Facebook Lives on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock. Also, I have a on March the 1st and March the 8th, I have a Principal Institute. So if you are a teacher that would like to become an assistant principal or principal, I'm having that. Just go ahead and sign up on Eventbrite, only $100. And I'm going to go ahead and look at budgets, talk about resumes, show you how to do observations, how to be able to interview other teachers for your building, just everything you need to be a principal. Also, you can also pick up my book, How to Transform Your Inner City Schools and Raise Student Achievement, from my website. So those are things that I have going on.
All right. So when I signed up for the workshop and I become a principal, my school's culture will not be toxic, right?
No, it's not. You know, I'm just, hey, listen, I want you to be able to go in there and just raise student achievement, just be that bomb principal. I want you to be the next Miss Howard because she's doing some big things. I need you to be next Miss Howard. That's what I want you to be.
Okay, thank you, Principal Hurt. Thank you. So I think I already signed up, but I did. I'll be there now. All right, Principal Howard, I'm coming up for you. I'm gonna try to be like you now. All right, so where can I follow you, Principal Howard? Where can folks find you?
Listen, Facebook, that's about all social media that I can do. That's it. I don't know if anybody wants to follow me. I don't have a book. I don't, I'm not yet. I'll
follow you.
Okay, well, not yet. I am Hurt's Cup and really just taking in all that because I'm trying to be better. I'm trying to be better for my
exactly,
and I'm trying to be better for my kids. Although he's got me on a path that some things are going to be happening down the road. But yeah, just right now, Facebook, and it's my life is pretty boring. Nobody's excited about that. I live here, like I'm still here. So but I'm always open for conversation, and if anybody wants to just to learn about experience, and I'll say this, that being a brown woman in this chair is not easy.
Wow.
I'll say that. And there that's a whole different conversation. And the statistics show that there's not a whole lot of us. And sometimes that it's a challenge. It's really a challenge, especially if it can be a challenge. I'll just say that. So if anybody wants to just chat, I'm open for that.
Well, thank you so much. And again, you joined in the village, so we can just chat within the village.
Yeah, we can just chat within the village.
Exactly. Mr. Mason, where can people find you and connect with Mr. Mason?
You can connect with me on Facebook, and you could at Rise Mentorship Academy, NYC.com. I would love to speak to some school leaders and outside organizations on how we can just develop programming to make, young men have the skills and tools necessary to become better versions of themselves.
Yes. Awesome.
And my book is on the way. It's on the way.
All right, good. And Ms. Williams, where can we find you?
You can find me on Facebook as well. I'm going to get on their level. I'm going to have my book and stuff popping. So
we got to level up. Don't we?
We're going to have my stuff together, girl.
We're going to make us level up.
We're going to make us level up. Yeah.
All right. But the good news is we're all part of the village, right?
That's right. We're all part of the village.
Exactly. So if you want to see them again, don't worry. You'll see them in the village. So thanks again, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate you so much. And I'll talk to you next time in the village.
Take care, everybody.
So, guys, that was awesome. I hope you took some notes. I have a whole page and a half of notes. So again, guys, is your school's culture toxic because of your leadership? Well, I hope not. And if it is, you learned some tools today that will help change that around. Again, you have to be transparent. You have to be vulnerable. You have to be innovative. You can't keep doing the same thing over and over again and you think that things going to change. It's not. So again, you have to have a great team of leaders to support the work. And again, you're not the smartest person in the room. So lean on your team. You're not. So you have to lean on your team. So I could keep going with the notes, But again, guys, thanks so much. Again, continue to follow The Village on Facebook and Instagram at The Village LG. Again, The Village is a professional learning community of teachers and educators and coaches coming together to learn and grow and develop as teacher leaders. Why? Because leadership is a mindset, not a position. So see you next time. Have a great one.